decided to start with the first ward, for uptown and come on down. And we end up at home right here at the west side. Yes. Just so you know, the format, everybody will get a 3-minute opening. Then there will be questions. You'll have 1 minute to answer the question, the candidates. If Mr. Johnson mentions Mr. Randolph's name, then Mr. Randolph gets the opportunity to rebut. Then there'll be a 2-minute closing. We'll do that with all the candidates. So, Mr. K-Sign, you're ready?
I'm always ready.
Our moderator is none other than the pastor of the great church of Mount Zion. Okay, K-Sign, we have a little bit of echo.
Everything, man.
I'm sorry. Before we get started, we're going to have Miss Yolanda Melville to give a greeting and a welcome from the NAACP.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening to everybody who's watching us online, as well as our studio audience. Thank you for coming out tonight for our candidates night. This is going to be an exciting, informative, and educational event for everybody. And I really encourage our studio audience to ask any question that you have of our candidates. We have candidates here tonight from our 1st ward, 2nd ward, 3rd ward, and 4th ward. But again, on behalf of the NAACP, we thank you for coming out tonight. Our meetings are every 2nd Monday at Jethro. So please come out, become a member, and have a good night. I'm turning it over to Pastor Francois now.
Okay, questions on your questions on your card?
Good evening, everyone. I want to echo the sentiments of the NAACP and welcome everyone here to this evening for an informed and civil conversation around the issues that matter the most to the electorate. And so, one, we're going to ask that the candidates will respect the questions that the electorate are issuing, are turning in today, because these are the votes that you actually need. So we want to respect their questions by answering the questions that they ask and not the answer you want to give. And we're going to ask that the audience will respect the process by holding your applause, your verbal engagement until the debate has finished, and then we'll celebrate both candidates after they have performed this evening. And so we'll start with a round of opening statements, and I don't know who has been designated to go first. We usually do a process.
Johnson has a call. Call wasn't there.
Oh, Lord, he got one of them village people quarters.
So we'll turn it over to Mr. Randolph for 3 minutes of opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'd like to thank the NAACP and the audience out for inviting me tonight. Thank you for having the time to come out of your busy schedules to hear us talk. My name is Aaron Sporty Randolph. I am running to retain the seat that I've had for two terms. I'm standing. I'm short on talk, but I'm long on accomplishments. So I brought a list of things that I've done since I've been on council, and I will continue. There's always a lot to do, and there's going to be more to do. But at least since I've been on council, I have a list of things that I've done, and I would like to just give you some of them. First of all, I'm one of 9. So when you're on council, you vote on issues. And one of those was to stabilize taxes for the last 4 years. We have not had a tax increase, and I'm proud to be part of that team. Refurbishing the seawall, which was pretty torn and tattered when we first came in. We got new lighting, handicap access, and fresh cleaning bases. We did the boardwalk reconstruction at the inlet, which additional lighting and access plan. Garden basins was taken over when the state took us over. The city, we regained it, and we have $1 million commitment from CREDA. Melrose floodgate, it's a work in progress, but we voted on it, we don't maintain it. They're working on it now, and hopefully in the near future it'll be running smooth and fast to alleviate some of the flooding. North Beach Apartments, that's on Parlene's Prairie, which is on Connecticut Avenue. It's called Nobi. It's an $80 million project, 252 units, and there's nothing been on that in that land in 50 years. We've also did pediatrics. The doctor's office, Dr. Peter Cupanini, has a pediatrics and a private family medicine. 101 Boardwalk was in shambles when we first came in. It's stabilized with new owners. We're in there all the time, and it's doing very, very well. We've also improved and we work with the county, because a lot of people don't realize that we have county parks, so we have a freeholder that I work with diligently so we can keep those parks clean uptown. Our own, which is Fisherman's Park, and the county park, which is Oscar McClinton Park. We also, as I said, we retained Martin Luther King. Like I said, I'm not long on speaking. Matter of fact, I'm just going to put this down and speak from my heart. I'm a public servant. I got 10 seconds. You'll hear more from me. I'm proud to be here. I'm proud that I'm a first ward council person, and I'm looking forward to retaining my seat. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank the NAACP for hosting this event, and also thanking you for coming out here this evening to share your precious time with us in our candidates night forum here today. I stand before you. My name is Robert Johnson. I'm running for First Ward Council, and I'm here to ask for your support and your vote on Tuesday, June 4th, to elect me the next First Ward Councilperson for the city of Atlantic City. We all know that Atlantic City and the First Ward in general have their share of problems. I'm not here to talk about the problems. I'm here to talk about a solution. And the solution, ladies and gentlemen, is having a new, fresh set of eyes with vision and qualifications. And I respectfully submit to you tonight that I am that candidate. I'm an architectural engineer. I know how to put together proposals, budgets, and estimate the work that needs to be done. I'm a businessman and developer with over 30 years experience in the field of architecture. I know what it takes to have a lot that's filled with trash and transform that lot into housing for our community. I've done that. I'm a #1 general contractor. That means I can build anything from an outhouse to the White House. I know how to repair our roads, get our streets back in order, help address the flooding that we're experiencing in our neighborhoods, and estimate that work that needs to be done to have it completed. I'm also a licensed realtor, so I know about the development process. With all the vacant land that we have in the First Ward, I know how to take that vacant land and transform that land into money-producing properties. I've done it. That can help lower our tax burden on our homeowners here in Atlantic City. And last but not least, I have the experience. I was a former council person for the 2nd Ward. I know how city government works. I know how council works. I know how the administration works. So I know how to hit the ground running when I take that dais this coming January. I know how to write resolutions. I know how to write ordinances. I know how the budget operates, so I know where to cut and where to spend. I've gotten things done while I was there. If you remember when they closed off Route 30 and Adriatic Avenue, I was the councilman that got it reopened. I also helped design and helped put together the professional staff that did the Soldiers Home. And last but not least, anything that I try to do, I always try to improve myself in that position that I'm in. I took the necessary courses that taught us how city government operates, how the branches function, and became the only certified elected official in the history of Atlantic City politics. So again, folks, I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for this fresh set of eyes to bring Atlantic City forward. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you both for your opening statements. I'll go now to return to Mr. Randolph. There is unnecessary flooding happening in your ward. Can you give us an idea, concrete, very specific plan, ideas that you have for correcting that in the very near future?
Aaron, use that mic. Use that mic.
You will share that.
Lapel, you got him?
We have 1 minute to answer this question.
Yes, 60 seconds. That floodgate, we just voted on it a couple of years ago. And the mere fact is, we don't maintain any of that we vote on. We legislate. When we voted on that floodgate, we had a contract by the name of Remit, and Burnett. They're the ones that we contracted out. They're the ones that built that. They've taken it apart. I'm taking the experts I go to all my association meetings. I'm taking the experts in so they can explain the reason why they took the motor out. They're going to repair it. They're going to go underground. They're going to do a lot of work. I'm not an expert in doing that. But as a council person, I voted on something that I think that is valuable and viable for that uptown area. So that we'll be working in the near future. And I work for the MUA, so we never give a specific time or date, but we know it's coming in the near future and we'll alleviate that flooding. Thank you.
I don't know all the details on the flooding, but I do know from the community meetings that I did attend when the councilman was there that they asked the same questions: what are we going to do to alleviate it? And one of the things that I can say without knowing the ins and outs of it, I know what I did ask. The question that I asked was a simple question, just based on my background. Is there a float system with the flooding, or is it a manual system? And that question came back being that it was a manual system. And me being the expert that I am, that, well, you can't have any type of floodgate or any type of system that doesn't operate automatically when the water rises. Because what you're going to have flooding, you're going to have those issues that we had. So when I get in, we can take them more in depth. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, back to you. What will you do to fix the playgrounds in the city?
Well, the one thing I like to do is to look at the budget and assess the financial picture of Atlantic City and where we can change, move money, divert money, and then also go out and look at it on my own. I'm just thinking, it's funny, I was just thinking about that today because we have a playground in my area, Bungalow Park, called the Edith Donaldson's Playground. And I was not responsible, partly responsible with, at the time, Sandy Clark, who was the councilwoman. We helped put that together to get that park together, and it's really in a state of disrepair. So what I'd like to see have done is that we find some funds, get some designers in here, and find the solutions that we can fix the Bungalow Park. The Uptown recently has been completed, so that's a park that's in good shape, but the one that I would like to see is the Bungalow Park playground repair.
We're in the process right now. It is in the budget of refurbishing the playgrounds. A lot of the playgrounds, they do them in succession. They don't do them in any particular order. when we put it out, we put the bids out, the first park we did was the one uptown. We're going to do the one on Sovereign Avenue. We have several parks that we have in the planning of doing. I can't give you a specific date, and I won't, but they will be done over the summertime. So I'm looking forward to those playgrounds being refurbished, and on that list, because I've been fighting hard, is the Donaldson Playground in Bungalow Park.
My question for you, Mr. Councilman, again, you started in your opening statement by listing several accomplishments that have taken place since you've been in office. We have one of the voters here who, one is very clear that while teamwork is great, everyone must bring something to the table. Can you point to one particular accomplishment that you were primarily responsible for bringing to the first district?
Yes. The $80 million project that's sitting on Pauline's Prairie. I was very instrumental in bringing that project in. When the Boré industry came to this town, I was introduced to them by former Mayor Lorenzo Langford. He's no longer with us. When he left office, he asked me would I be in charge of that, bringing that to fruition. It took 7 years. It was a lot of doubters in the first ward saying it won't be done. Nothing's never been there, and it hasn't been there in 50 years. Nothing will never be there. Well, if you go up there now, that's one of the most luxurious projects in the city. So I'm proud to say that is one of the biggest accomplishments, to get something on some land that has not been there in 50 years. So I'm proud of that accomplishment. We're still working. It's going to be more development, because the other side of that, which is a parking lot, that will be turned into another entity. It could be an apartment complex, it could be a movie theater, it could be a lot of things, but we're moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Because that question was directly for the councilman, if you want to do a 1-minute rebuttal to his answer, you can, or we can move on to the question directly towards you. Okay. Mr. Johnson, I have a question here that says, why did you stop coming to the city council meetings after you lost the June primary, but continued to collect checks and drove a city vehicle?
Well, I'm like you folks in the audience. I didn't know that for myself. Well, I can say that, unfortunately, I had a illness, and anyone who had an illness and had to be hospitalized, you can pretty much understand where I'm coming from. At that time, prior to that time, I attended every council meeting and went through a serious illness that put me in the hospital. And as a matter of fact, I had to miss council meetings. But once I got to the point where I was well enough to come back to the council meeting, I came back and served my term honorably up until the end. So I understand how people feel, but people do get sick. And unfortunately, I got sick and was hospitalized. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Councilman, I'll give you the chance to respond to it if you can.
No, I would,
Okay, good. We'll ask a question now. We've talked about development. Both candidates have talked significantly about development. One in terms of what he can bring to the table, and one in terms of what has been brought to the table. But I want to drill down a little more on Gardner's Basin, if we can. I know not long ago, well, some time ago, there was a deal struck for the redevelopment of Gardner's Basin, and there were great promises that were given to the community on what it can be, comparing it to other major attractions and harbors in the country. Mr. Councilman, can you talk to us about where we are in that process? And then, Mr. Johnson, can you talk about what your vision would be for transforming Gardner's Basin for us?
3 years ago, Garden Basins was taken over by the state. They asked us to alleviate it. We had no other choice. We did it under duress. They farmed it out to a company by the name of Scarborough. We found out that they were incompatible, but we had no say-so in the matter. This councilman here, with the help of some of my colleagues, but this councilman here went to the state and sat down with them and said that this is incompatible. We can't have this because We're not going anywhere, and it's a lot of details that go into what I want to say, but I'm not going to say it. It just didn't work out. I convinced the state that the city should get it back. It was reverted back to the city. It's back in the city's hands. It's a slow process. If you know about RFQs and RFPs, those things take a process when you're in a municipality. It's no longer run by association. It's under the municipality of the city of Atlantic City. I'm there all the time, and it will be progressive, but at a slow pace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman. Mr. Johnson.
Well, that's a good question. The primary issue I see, I guess we're talking about Gardner's Basin, is the land that was held by Cushman. I guess one of the first things I would do, and it's a long process to get something accomplished when you talk about developed land, as the councilman said, you have to go through the zoning law, look at the land use and other factors that determine what that particular property could be used for. One of the things that I would probably start at is the ownership of the land. Finding out who the ownership of the land is and ask them specifically, what do you have envisioned for your property? And if you have a vision for your property, it may be that the city government could piggyback with you or have a public-private partnership to see if we can bring that vision to fruition. That would be the first thing that I would look at. Other things that could be done up in the inlet, we have a lot of land there that's vacant, you know, bringing in more apartments, bringing in more businesses that could help support the neighborhoods that are there now. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move into our closing statements. Mr. Johnson will allow you to close us out, and then we'll have a closing statement from Councilman Randolph.
Thank you, sir. Well, I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. You heard two speakers up here with their vision for the first ward. I want to thank the NAACP for hosting this event. But if you look at what the choices that you have, to me, the choice is clear. We can continue down the path that we've been going down for the last 10 years with our current councilman, or we can look at someone that has a fresh set of eyes with vision and qualifications to take us to the next step. So I'm here tonight to ask for your support and your vote on Tuesday, June the 4th, to take that next step to move the first ward forward. Thank you, and have a good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Again, I'd like to thank the NAACP, and I'd like to thank the audience, the listening audience. I just wanted to say one thing. I hear a fresh set of eyes. I've only had one bite at the apple, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job at doing what's necessary to move the first ward forward. I never ran for council but one time, and I've been elected 3 times. I would like to continue to hold on to this seat because I know there's more in the future and there's much more that I can do. Once you have a bite at the apple and you want another bite, I don't think there's another fresh eyes. I always said, be careful when you see a sheep in wolf clothing. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Randolph. What we're going to do, before we get to the third ward, the second ward obviously would be next. Mr. Marty Small is running unopposed. He happens to be out of town on business, so he asked me to please acknowledge that he wanted to be here, but can't because he's out of town on business. And he's running unopposed as well. So we beg for our forgiveness of him not being here. Next, I need the third ward people to come up. Mr. Shabazz and Mr. Torres. Thank you, Mr. Randolph. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
As we move now into our third ward debates, we have Mr. Kaleem Shabazz, the incumbent, and we also have Mr. Torres Mayfield. And we'll start with we need the flipping of the coin, Mr. Charles.
You know
we'll
what?
3-minute opening statement.
I'm going to take the power of the chair and give Mr. Torres the opportunity to go first.
Okay. That seemed quite fair.
Good evening. Good evening. First and foremost, give me to my. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it turned on? Is it turned on? Okay.
All right, there we go. Good evening. First, giving honor to my Heavenly Father, who is my Lord and Savior. My name is Torres Mayfield. I'm a resident of the 3rd Ward, United States veteran, and community activist and servant. In the 3rd Ward, we all know there's some issues that's going on and solutions that need to be answered. I'm out in the community all the time, serving in the community. From doing missing and exploited children education awareness programs, also to doing, the food bank monthly, every month. There's a lot that I see in some of the issues that I'm looking at right now is public safety, also our seniors and our youth. We have to come back to the table because we got away from the dinner table of everything that's going on. And sometimes we go along to get along to try to make things better. But people are suffering in this community and also in the city. So it's time for us to come back together and set up our own plan instead of letting people dictate what goes on. I'm very compassionate about the community. Anybody that knows me, I will give you the shirt off my back. I'm running for the position, not against anyone. And I'm here to serve you with pride. And that pride stands for the acronym personal responsibility and demanding excellence. That's what we should do, demand excellence for anybody that's going to serve us. And when we give our service to each and one of us, we make this a better place. We have a lot of issues that we have to face. So networking with anybody that's on city council, within the community, from federal, state, and local, we have to do what we have to do to move things forward. And once again, my name is Torres Mayfield, running for 3rd Ward City Council as a candidate.
Good evening. My name is Kaleem Shabazz, and I am proud to be the 3rd Ward representative in Atlantic City. I am also the Democratic approved candidate by the Democratic City Committee and County Committee. I am also someone who is passionate about public service. I count it a high honor and a distinct privilege to represent the 3rd Ward and to be one of the governing body of the City of Atlantic City Council. I see my 2 council colleagues that I want to recognize, Councilman Delgado and Councilman Marsh, who are here, and Councilman Fauntleroy, who's coming in the door. We serve and we make decisions that are important for the life of all of the people and residents in the City of Atlantic City. I'm proud to say, since I have been on City Council, I have perfect attendance. Why is that important, you'll say? Because City Council is a calling to me, but it's also an opportunity to serve, but it's also a job. And the way you determine how someone does the job, it's the first thing, they have to be there. And once they're there, you can see what they do. So I am proud to say I have never missed a City Council meeting or a committee meeting. When the city was in the throes of the takeover fight with the Christie administration, I happened to lead the effort to push back against that. After Governor Murphy got elected, I'm proud to say that I showed leadership. I wrote a letter, and I have copies of it, to Phil Murphy, who was not the governor, as we know, on November 1st, because that was before the election. And in that letter, I said, this letter is in reference to the political and government future of Atlantic City if you are elected as our next governor. I would respectfully suggest that you put together an Atlantic City task force to begin to develop a roadmap that will take us from takeover partnership to self-governance. As you know, this was November 1st, 2017, and I wrote this letter. As you know, Governor Murphy was elected governor, and he selected Jim Johnson as his special counsel to help guide Atlantic City from the takeover to self-government. That's leadership. That's what being in government is about, helping to develop public policy, helping to implement that policy. I'm proud to say in the 3rd Ward, we are on the move. Yes, there's problems. We're not perfect. But in a couple of days, we're going to announce 3 things that are very important to the future of the 3rd Ward, the City of Atlantic City. On May 29th, the Lieutenant Governor is going to be here at St. Augustine's Church. We're going to announce the acquisition of 152 units of housing, Liberty, Distant, and Schoolhouse, which we know is in horrible conditions, but it's going to be turned around. And that's some of the things that we are trying to do in the 3rd Ward.
Mr. Mayfield, can you identify, right, in your opinion, the greatest issue that you would like to tackle as a council person?
The greatest issue that I would like to tackle is public safety. Public safety is paramount. In the tourism district, you have cameras. Why not have cameras here citywide with facial recognition? As recently, there have been an influx of people, as we call it Zombieland, up on Tennessee Avenue, floating down inside the 3rd Ward, sleeping inside abandoned houses, breaking in people's cars. You have residents that's out here that's afraid to go to the 501 and the 701 store because everybody's out there hanging out there. Residents are afraid to come out. A couple of months ago, there was a shooting in the 1700 block of Grand Avenue. Residents are scared and ready to move. You also had a young lady out there beating her grandma. They're afraid to call the cops. But we had to all come together, and public safety is paramount in everything that we do. The CRDA just issued $7.5 million to give 2 police officers and a supervisor.
Mr. Mayfield is right. Public safety is important. What are we doing on public safety? In the beginning of June, we're going to announce that there are going to be 2 officers in each community to increase community policing. That's part of the effort that I was proud to support along with my colleague, Councilman Randolph, who's the chairman of the Public Safety Committee. I'm a member of that committee. The second thing is we have increased the lighting in the 3rd Ward. We had a $5 million grant from the BPU, which I was instrumental in getting and implementing to increase the lighting. We are also working to increase police-community relations. And I would suggest to anyone who says that the police-community relations has not increased and improved, that they're not looking at a realistic picture of Atlantic City. Is it 100%? No. But we have a chief who is helping us move forward. We're working with him, and we are improving public safety every day.
Mr. Shabazz, in your literature that you're distributing, you talk about your work in restoring Browns Park. Can you talk more about that, and particularly what would you do to better more of the parks, in particularly your ward?
Browns Park, when I first came on, I think we all can remember that sad day when that young man punched the lady and knocked her out and went viral. My sister lives in D.C. She called me. She said, what in the world's going on in Atlantic City? And we got to work to bring people together, had a series of meetings. It was reported in the press, and other people know about it, in the mayor's office, where we met with stakeholders to improve Browns Park. My colleagues on the city council supported our effort, and we poured money into Browns Park. Browns Park used to be a needle park. It used to be a park where people drank and did other antisocial things. Now, today, you can go to Browns Park. People have weddings there. They have church services there. They have poetry readings there. Browns Park is a real park, and I'm proud to say that I was a leader in that effort. Did I do it by myself? No. You never do anything by yourself in government. It is a cooperative effort, but I was a leader.
Mr. Mayfield, would you like to give a response on how you would improve the parks in the city?
The parks in the city? Okay. Browns Park. Let's talk about Browns Park for a little bit. When I'll be walking throughout the community in Browns Park, the cops used to be patrolling out there, and they used to sit there. They're no longer there. Now you're starting to have the influx of people that was there before starting to migrate back in to Browns Park, which is right across from Stanley Homes. Also, maybe it wasn't in the design to put restrooms over there that can have been monitored. You have a camera system over there, and also the police that was sitting there to help the children get back and forth across the street. And they'd be inside the park also at night. They used to keep it closed. But there also been an influx. And Browns Park is a very good park. But on top of that, we have to do a lot better. If we're going to turn around and bang our parks and stuff up together, we have to make sure that they're monitored. and the police have not been around here for a little while, and the influx that come in, we have to keep an eye on as parents and residents as ourselves.
Here's a question. Mr. Shabazz has answered it to some extent, but this question, and it's a yes or no question, so we can move through this pretty quick, and both of you all can answer, although we've heard from Mr. Shabazz a bit on this. Will you be available, and this is for you, Mr. Mayfield, will you be available to address issues that are given to you when you are addressed to you when you are not at council meeting, and will you be available for calls after work hours?
Yes, I would.
Yes, no question.
Yes, I would, and yes, I am.
Good. Mr. Shabazz, what have you done within the community? And we've heard your list, we've seen your literature, but what have you done in the community that you've not just added your name to in order to get recognition?
I think that we only have a minute. I don't have more accomplishments than I can indicate. The things that I have added my name to are things that I have supported and things that have come to fruition. I see Reverend Days in the audience. We did a successful African American male conference for several years that helped mentor people and help people go on to college. We have done several interfaith rallies and vigils that have spoken to the rising hate coming from the races that we have in the White House. I have led several movements throughout my history to push back racism and segregation. When we had a South African casino that wanted to come to Atlantic City, I did led that effort to stop that.
What have I done in the community? I'm in the community 24/7, making sure that our youth have things, recreation. Also, I do the monthly food banks, missing and exploited children education, anti-bullying. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you will see I am in the community 24/7, talking to the seniors and the residents, trying to make them feel safe. And I have no doubt in my mind I will continue to do it whether I'm here or not. So what it comes down to, I'm in the community, I'm there, I have the heart and the compassion. Anybody that really knows me and be around me know that I'm feeding people, making sure that to make this a better town, not only for my children, but also our children's children.
Mr. Mayfield, this is for you. With the financial state of the city, how and who are going to pay for the camera system and facial recognition you keep talking about?
Well, you have the CRDA, who's the biggest moneymakers that's here and have all the property in the city that ain't even paying no taxes on it. You just gave $7.5 million, you know, for community policing. You have a camera system up in the tourism district. Well, what about the residents down here and the homeowners? The ones that's really up there suffering. The taxpayers, the homeowners, and property owners. We are the ones that's fitting this bill. When we have people that come and live in the city, it will also help out. So that's where the money's coming from. Let's look at the CRDA. If you want to give money, they're taking all the money out of the city, but they're not putting it back into the city.
The Intergovernmental Committee meets with the CRDA once a month. I'm on that committee, and I can inform people now that there are many things that are happening. I see Lieutenant Benjamin, he is in charge of the commanders of the people in this platoon. Public safety is improving and will continue to improve. We are in the throes now of getting lighting in the community. The CRDA, I would say, if you look at what they've done in the last several months, they have made greater commitments to the city of Atlantic City, and that's going to continue. The mindset on the CRDA now, and I'm proud to say I'm a member of Governor Murphy's transition team. And one of the things that we stressed in the transition team to the governor that he has accepted is to move Atlantic City forward in the communities, in the neighborhoods. And that is reflected in the fact that Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver is in charge of the Department of Community Affairs, and she is here in the trenches helping us make those changes to improve the community.
This will be our last question, and then we'll move into our closing. But to Councilman Shabazz, there is some concern about sex trafficking in our city, not particularly your ward, but in our city. Can you talk about any efforts or any plans you can undertake to combat sex trafficking and protect women and children in our town?
That's a good question, and that's a concern that I have, and I know that every parent or grandparent or aunt or uncle has. Sex trafficking is a vile and hideous thing that's happening in our society, and particularly in Atlantic City, because of the kind of community we live in. I'm proud to say that we're working on the Public Safety Committee with the chief, who's working with the county, and there are several interacting agency efforts to combat sex trafficking. In the county, Ashley Bennett, who was a county freeholder, knows that there are county efforts that the city is working on. We're working on education, we're working in prevention to see if we can reduce the incident of sex trafficking in our city, in the 3rd Ward and everywhere. And the effort is something that we all need to get involved in. It's something that unfortunately hits people in all income levels, all racial groups, that people take advantage of young women and young men.
2 years ago, I put together Missing and Exploited Children Education Awareness and Human Trafficking. I brought all law enforcement departments together to bring to the community educational awareness, what to look for in human trafficking. Atlantic City is one of the biggest places of human trafficking, through the bus station and also coming in by cars. Just recently they had a young lady that was brought to here from Philadelphia. They shut down that page that was up there bringing where women were solicited. So as far as the human trafficking, I know people that's involved in it. They also have another program that's called Project Pro. They have a program out of Philadelphia, and I'm getting ready to set up another educational human trafficking program to bring back to the community, because the young women get on the computers and they call on the telephones. They have people solicit them. They don't know what they they don't know what they're doing. So educational awareness is paramount. Also the child identity program. So if anybody have not been there, you're more than welcome. I will be setting up another one also in the future.
Okay, now for our closing statements. Mr. Shabazz, you'll start with your closing statement, and then we'll have Mr. Mayfield with the last word.
First of all, let me thank the NAACP Political Action Committee for putting this forum together. It's important that we hear from those of us who want to be elected officials. Unfortunately, what happens as we get closer to election is something that I call EFS, which is election fantasy syndrome, and people say and do things that really does not comport with reality, and people make promises that they can't really keep, and people say things that sounds good, but the test of reality and working within the governmental structure doesn't hold them up. I have accomplishments, I have a vision, I have a work ethic. I want to continue to perform to make the 3rd Ward in the city of Atlantic City better. I have the ability to bring people together. I've shown that. I have the ability to work with every level of government. I'm concerned about public safety, concerned about education, concerned about stabilizing the taxes, concerned about moving Atlantic City forward, concerned about working closer with Stockton so we have greater horizons for our young people, more opportunities for our young people, and enabling us to increase the level of income and make Atlantic City better. I'm concerned about balanced housing, concerned about beating back the vile administration that is hurting us from Washington on down, concerned about voter registration, I'm concerned about the census, I'm concerned about our youth, and I would respectfully and humbly ask for the support of those in the 3rd Ward and those you know in the 3rd Ward to return to office to continue working and fighting for everything.
The 3rd Ward. We have some good residents in the 3rd Ward. Well, we are all in this together. I'm not one that goes out and attach my name to things and then turn around saying I've done this and I've done that. we are all in this together. I'm here for everyone. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it, without a doubt. And on top of that, I'm community engaging. I'm going to talk to the residents, even over at Stanley. If something's going on with their housing and they're going to be moved, they have to know. We have to get back to, as I say, to the dinner table where our parents knew what was going on and what was happening to us. Far too long, we turn around, we let everybody dictate to us what goes on into our city. But yet and still, everybody on the outside is taken care of. When are we going to come back to the table, do what we need to do, and take care of ourselves? Everybody has an agenda for Atlantic City, but do the residents, and each and every one in here, do you have a plan for what we're supposed to do? Too much is going out. Family, friends, and favorite. I'm here and I'm only one person. Like I said, I'm running for the position, not against the person. I'm out in the community, I'm there in the community, I'm not going to be going anywhere. I'm still here. Even when it's all done and over, I'm still going to work with anybody that's there, as long as they have the best interests of the city and the residents, and watch over our seniors and watch over our children. Our children are our best resources, and they are our future. Once again, this is not about me. It's about each and every one of us in here. So you ask yourself, do you feel safe? Are you getting the best that you can get as a resident here in the city of Atlantic City, instead of being dictated by someone else who do not live here and who do not really care what goes on? Once again, we can't even keep our doors open. We can't keep our doors open. You can't even walk to the stores anymore. So I'm asking for your support. You need to speak with me. I'm here. I'm everywhere, in and about the community.
Let's thank both of our candidates. Mr. is coming out for another announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Shabazz. Thank you, Mr. Torres. As you know, this is about the primaries. If, regardless of party, Democrat or Republican, if there's opposition, then you're eligible to be here. If you don't have opposition, then we'll see you in October for the general election. The Republican for the 4th Ward does have opposition, but only one person is here, Mr. Fred Grenice. You're allowed to stand and search, especially. Okay, so he's the only Republican that showed up. So we appreciate you coming. Next we're going to go to...
I'm a Republican for the 4th Ward. I'm actually the Republican appointed nominee.
Oh, well, excuse me, that's my bag then. I had you down as the Democrat.
No, sir.
I'm sorry. See, you had all that work clothes on and stuff. I thought you was a Democrat. I didn't know Republican wore clothes. My bad. Well, then I'll have Mr. Grenice and yourself come on up. I apologize for that. Oh, yeah, you sure don't look like no Republican. Them dirty boots on and stuff. Oh, no. All right. So we're going to have you come and Pastor Francois, have a seat. Once again, I apologize. The Democratic 4th Ward would be next.
If you have questions for our candidates, I encourage you to submit those now so that we can have a fruitful debate. And we want to make sure that the questions are coming from the actual electorate, the persons who will be holding our elected officials, these accountable if they are privileged to be sworn into office, elected and sworn into office.
My name is Sean Reardon. I moved to Atlantic City 3 years ago. I actually bought a property and lived in probably the worst neighborhood in town. That's Texas Ave, Beach Block. The reason I'm living there is because I believe that the city needs to get change from the worst neighborhood and work our way out. And there are great neighborhoods in this city. So I'm there to address the root of the problem, which is right there in Texas Ave in the 4th Ward. We haven't had great representation there in the last few terms. Our councilman currently, Speedy, obviously is from Venice Park, and there's nothing wrong to be said about his representation, but the ward is very split. the fact that Venice Park has a completely different landscape than that side of the 4th Ward over by the beach block. It's really city versus more of a suburb, per se, for Atlantic City. My whole goal is to improve the condition on the streets in terms of trash collection. I believe that we have a lackluster CRDA running the tourism district. They're not policing the way they should be. They're not cleaning it up the way they should be. And they're allowing our tourism district to really be the front and face of this city that is, and showing how bad it really is. And it should be the other way around. Our tourism district should not be as bad as it is in terms of crime and trash. So I don't know where I'm doing on time, but thank you for having me, and I really appreciate the NAACP having me here.
How you doing, everyone? My name is Fred Bernice. I'm actually humbled to be here in front of my friends and colleagues here. I am born and raised in Atlantic City. I've lived in the 4th Ward in Venice Park for the last 20 plus years. Been involved in the Venice Park Association. I lived on the other side of the bridge when I was a young man. Grew up in Pitney Village, moved to Stetton Place, moved to Sovereign Avenue, which is now the 5th Ward. The conditions in those areas there are atrocious. I've taken on the responsibility and actually the privilege to try to improve it. Improving the 4th Ward over the bridge. The first thing I started doing was cleaning each street and talking to the residents about their problems there. I'm familiar with Venice Park, being part of the Venice Park Association and giving myself there. But I've been separated from where my roots were. The streets, there must be 10 years, at least 10 years of dirt and grime in the gutters. Backing up of the storm drains because of dirt in there, and I've taken on that responsibility to clean them up. I've made my way halfway through that side of the city. And I did this for a reason, because I think the greatest impact that the citizens in that area would see. Seeing is believing, and I'll tell you what, I have pictures that are really amazing. The city really is beautiful when it's clean, like it was when I was a kid. I have a feeling, in fact, it promotes well-being, a feeling of self-worth, a feeling of community when something's clean and you're proud of it. My community in Venice Park is a nice place to live. It's clean for the most part because we do our cleaning there. But that part of the city where there are so many ethnicities there and language barriers. I was on Texas Avenue today, and there must have been 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 different ethnicities that didn't speak English. I handed out my card, I cleaned the gutters, cleaned the streets. Some of the lots that are there, and the people are appreciative of that. I want to see that area get better. I want to see Venice Park improve, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
First question will be for you. You have 60 seconds, and then we'll give Mr. Reardon an opportunity to rebut or to respond to the same question. How do we diversify the Atlantic City Police Department, the Atlantic City Fire Department further? It seems that we can never have more than one minority in leadership at a time. Do you have plans for making sure that the leadership of the fire department and the police department match the actual demographics of the city?
That's a good question. Historically, it hasn't been that way. Of course, choosing candidates that are qualified is always paramount in both the police department and the fire department. Training is of the utmost priority. because we want the best services we can get. The complexities of doing those jobs indicate that we have to have qualified people there. And there are, of all races and ethnicities in the fire department and the police department, should be given an equal chance to take these tests. So all testing should be open to all the qualified people.
My take on that is that I'd just like to see the people that are on the police force and the fire department living in the city. I know that a lot of the police do not live in the city. Just going based on demographics, I believe that the majority that would be living in the city would be African American or people of different ethnicities. And I'd like to see those people rewarded for living here and serving in this community. I don't think that we have enough people of different races that have been promoted. I believe that answers the question. Thank you.
In the same vein, a similar question, and this is to you, Mr. Reardon. New businesses are opening in Atlantic City, and many people who don't live in the city are taking advantage of these opportunities. There are very few minority residents who have been able to benefit from this new resurgence. As a council person for Atlantic City, what is your plan to ensure that residents are able to take advantage of these economic opportunities, business opportunities as well?
That's a difficult question to answer, but I'll do my best. There are incentives that were put into place by Mayor Gilliam recently that have had facade improvements, have had business grant money that's been available to people, where the city is matching certain numbers up to $25,000 and so forth. I think that that's a good program to have. I think where you're trying to go with that question, though, is speaking about these new businesses that open that don't provide any jobs to the citizens of the city. When I see a complex like 600 North Beach open up, how many jobs did that create for the residents of Atlantic City? I can't think of it being many. I went to the city council meeting a few months back, and I spoke about how 33 national retailers left this city in the last 2 years, from the playground at Caesars as well as the outlets. To me, I believe that that was an impact for the city, because you count how many jobs are at each one of those retailers, and those were real jobs that were lost to residents of this city.
Yes, well, I'm a businessman in Atlantic City, and I have promoted businesses, black businesses in my building, by giving them the opportunity to be there. On the outside, I would have to encourage other businessmen to do the same. As a resident of Atlantic City, I would love to see more involvement. As we all know, that Kentucky Avenue, which used to be the Renaissance of Atlantic City, is not the Renaissance of Atlantic City. And it used to be a black community, strong black businesses there. And it just doesn't exist right now. I encourage, and I do encourage, my friends and colleagues to open businesses and be businessmen.
Thank you. Mr. Grenice, a question for you. As you know, ordinances and resolutions are passed by majority vote. As a council person, how do you plan to work with others on the council who you may disagree with in order to push forward an agenda that works best for the city?
I would weigh all the pros and cons of every issue that there is on council. I've never been on council, but my background is as a nurse and firefighter in the city and with Atlantic Care, and complex situations can be worked out no matter how complex they are or whose side you're on. It's a balancing act between personalities that can be worked out.
I think this is one of the unique traits that I have as somebody running for council, and that's that I see this city through the eyes of a tourist as well as somebody who's here as a resident right now. And I think that relays into this question, because I'm not here somebody who grew up with maybe the drama or the antics or of this group or that person or this you know, story or problems that have happened in the past. So I don't have any ties to anybody on council. I don't have any grudges that I'm carrying out. I'm a fresh, clean slate. So I'm going to look at what that council person is saying, and if it makes sense and it makes sense for the city, then that's exactly, I'm going to support them in what they're doing. Thank you.
Mr. Reardon, you've been here for some of the evening, and this question can actually go for both of you. What will you do to fix the playgrounds and the parks in our city?
Well, in the 4th Ward, quite frankly, we actually have really nice parks. If anybody's been to the you know, to the Texas Ave, where we have a small soccer field that was donated by I believe it was a Saudi prince or sheik. I mean, it's quite beautiful. The Venice Park schools fields are pretty nice. I don't think that we actually in the 4th Ward, in my opinion, have parks that are in a real state of disrepair. I think that overall our issue is the vacant land that exists and the vacant properties that exist in our area. And that is where I would put the focus on in terms of improving and working with the city, working with the CRDA, and working from the experience that I have in the real estate business, working with the banks and so forth to push forward ordinances for the city to have fines assessed so that the city can make income on these blighted properties, as well as figure out how we can get those back on the tax rolls generating revenue.
Actually, the access to the Venice Park field, Dolphin Field, is limited, and there are no adults there that have been after hours, I should say after school hours for the kids. It's been closed up and locked up because of some vandalism. Recently it's been improved by the Hard Rock improved the whole property, and it needs to be used more by the kids. Accessibility to that park would be a great improvement. The Texas Avenue field there is being used constantly by the kids. And that's what we need in Venice Park.
Question for both. What are your plans for our youth? And we'll start with you, Mr. Bernice.
Our youth. I've been working with youth at the PAL at the PAL as a guy. It's been a while. I was working with Dayton Brown, myself and Dayton Brown. We were running the brain fart here. The Explorers, I'm sorry, the Explorers. Boy, the Explorers, I've been working with them for years, and actually recently, since Dayton has been out of service, I've backed off on it. But I see those kids all the time, and I encourage them to do the right thing. A few of them I'm trying to get jobs for them. In fact, you know, they really jobs for youth should be more accessible for them and trained for the youth.
The city needs more jobs. The youth need jobs, good jobs that they can grow in. When I was first announced my candidacy, I actually met with Mr. Steve Young, who's in the crowd, about a project he was putting together to create, to take youth and make them ambassadors of boardwalk rolling chairs and make them knowledgeable in the history of Atlantic City, making them knowledgeable on current events, and getting them involved in the community and interacting with the tourists. My first thing back to him was, what can I do to help to make that happen? I think that's a great job. Our youth need to get put in positions where they feel important, where they can grow, where they can learn about the community, and they can be a part of it and making a difference in this city.
Okay, we'll move now to our final question, and then we'll have 2-minute closing statements from each of our candidates. While both parties, Republican and Democrat, have their own racial and ethnic competency gaps, they have issues with how to handle minorities, the Republican Party is often considered a party that it has more deeply entrenched racism and sexism in it. Can you talk about, from your own experiences, from what you have done as individuals, because there's a difference between not being a racist and being anti-racist. So can you talk about how you have fought against racism, fought against sexism in your own lives? And we'll start with Mr. Ritter.
Well, as the question says, racism exists. I think this city has experienced that for the last 40, 50 years. In my humble opinion, this city's been controlled by 65-year-old white men in suits who've controlled this city, make backdoor business deals to help their friends, to help their own pockets. And what's happened? What's happened for the people of Atlantic City? Not a whole lot. We talked about these problems election after election, decade after decade. I'm a firm believer that a person is to be judged by their character, okay? I registered Republican just in time for this election. I wasn't registered Republican before that. The only reason that I registered Republican is I felt that it gave me a better chance to put myself in front of the people of Atlantic City for a longer period of time, working up to the election in November. And I thought that that would be my best route to getting elected.
Racism in Atlantic City, boy, the history of that, from the race riots back in the 60s and 70s, it was deep-seated. Deep-seated in the school, Atlantic City High School. Back and forth, they were fighting back and forth. I've seen it happen. I've agreed and disagreed with people. I've been living in a community, a black community for the most part, in Venice Park. And I've always treated people because of their character, not the color of their skin. And I hope that most people will do this. But the realities of racism do exist. And we have to just fight against them all the time. It's a constant fight. Thank you.
Ms. Bernice, we'll have your final 2 minutes in closing, and then the last word will be given to Mr. Reardon.
I don't think I have 2 minutes of words left in me, but again, I want to thank Speedy over there. He gave up his position and given other people the opportunity. He's been there for 16 years, and I appreciate him giving it up and giving other people the opportunity to do this. And again, as a candidate, that's all I am as a candidate. I'm trying to make an impact. The impact on the streets of Atlantic City. The worst part of Atlantic City, I believe, is the 4th Ward. It's been neglected terribly. There's hookers and all kinds of stuff on Pacific Avenue there. The streets are dirty. The kids are running around with all that dirt. They are hurt by just their attitude is changed by their environment. The greatest impact, again, that I think is clean up the environment, speaking to people, having them getting their opinions about things, parking issues, like on Stanton Place, when the streets need to be clean. They ticket everyone, and they can't move the cars. There's no place to move the cars. So they ticket them and they don't clean the streets. So there's a dilemma in Atlantic City about cleanliness and the way we are perceived by people who come to the city. They see this dirt, they see the people running around in it, and they're just accepting it. We can't accept these things anymore. We need to make a change, and I'm trying to make a little bit of a change. Thank you.
So, a little more background on me is I actually left living South Beach, Florida, to come here to Atlantic City. I think that speaks volumes as to the love that I found in this place. I think a lot of people would think South Beach is a better place to live. I found a home here. I found people were open arms, embracing me. I see faces in this room that put their hand out every time I see them, and they're as happy as anything to see me. I think that there's a special thing in Atlantic City. The term that they say is that I got sand in my shoes, and maybe that's the truth. I'm guessing there's probably not many Republicans in the audience, but you will see me on the ballot come November. And I just want everybody to know in this room, if it's the last time that I get to speak to you, and understand I'm not a far-right Republican. I'm actually socially quite liberal. Really just fiscally conservative. I think I'm really right down the middle. So I think that voting for me and supporting me is voting for a new, fresh, clean slate of new ideas. Somebody, as you can see, is not scared to get their hands dirty, and I'm going to work around the clock for the residents of this city, and I hope to make it a better place that everybody in this audience is hoping that it can become once again. Thank you.
Let's thank both of our candidates. Let's thank both of our candidates again.
Thanks very much, Fred and Mr. Reardon. Unique young man. We might have to pull his card and see if he's really a Republican. That's it. If you really registered a Republican. Anyway, I don't know. You got a strike against him from me. Well, who would leave South Beach and come to Atlantic City? My God. Much as I love Atlantic City. South Beach to Atlantic City? I don't know about that. But anyway, we're going to have the Democratic candidates forward. Please come forward. I need this. Do you mind if the lady picks it up the hat? Huh? You didn't have a choice anyway, she was. That's it. Oh, hold it before you. Just pick it. And that's four. We each take a number. Who's going to go first, second, and third? All right? Okay. Ms. Chapman? 1, 2, and 3. So Ms. Chapman will be the first with the opening statement. Oh, back in the hands of Pastor Francois.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Constance Days Chapman, and I am your future 4th Ward Councilwoman. I am a mother, a wife. I am an assistant principal at Pleasantville High School, and I am the vice president of the Atlantic City Board of Education. I am also a board member for the Citizens Advisory Board. I am an advocate for children, an advocate for women, and I'm an advocate for my community, the community in which I live. Living in the 4th Ward makes the issues of the 4th Ward very clear. We know that we have issues with our streets. Our bridges need to be replaced. We know that there are public safety issues because of abandoned homes. And living within our city makes the issues of our city very clear. We have issues with physical, sexual abuse that are not being addressed, gender equality. all around our city, we need to do better, and I am going to be the one to advocate for you, to fight for you, and in June, I need for you to vote me, Constance Days Chapman, D7, for your 4th Ward City Councilwoman.
Mr. Chapman? Chowdhury. Thank you, Mr. Chowdhury.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank NAACP and Mr. Goodman to invite me here tonight. My name is Milton Chowdhury. I moved to Brooklyn when I was 17, and after a year and a half, I moved to Atlantic City area. I went to NAACP Community College, studied business and marketing. I worked in the casino industry and mortgage banking for a few years. After that, I opened 2 businesses, one at the inlet section of the city, which is Uptown and Rhode Island Avenue. I also opened up another store at Ducktown called Arctic Food Market. Currently, I'm working for Atlantic County government. I'm in a personal leave because of the elections without unpaid leave right now. My reason to run for 4th Ward, last year we opened up a 2 casino with more than $500 million investment, Hard Rock and Ocean Casino. Right before the casinos opened, I saw potholes all over the town, especially in 4th Ward, and also the crime situation was out of control, especially between California Avenue to Georgia Avenue. I reached out to the council, 2 of my people in council. I told them that we are bringing $500 million investment in town. Are you guys going to do something about these potholes and crime? Because there's more than 1 million people coming in town, and this is how you want to represent our city or not. They told me there is no money to fix the streets, and there is no really money for fix the potholes. So I decided that I got to do something, and I decided to run for city council. Ladies and gentlemen, Atlantic City has $500 million debt right now. Back in 2008, we had $20 billion of rateable. Right now, the ratables are $3 billion without the casino. We are in 10 years in pilot program. There's not much money coming in from that casino anymore. We got to create new commercial ratables to get our tax ratables up, so that way the residents can get some help with the tax issues. We need to create more jobs, so we can no longer look at the casino industry, because the casino industries are going down, or they're not doing better as much as they're doing like 10 years ago. We need to look at the tech industry. We need to educate our kids with the STEM education, because some of the jobs that we're looking at now are not going to be there by the next decade. So if we don't educate our kids with STEM education, or not bringing other industry in the town, we're going to be behind, and our kids are going to be behind. We always talk about income equality, but the income equality starts with education. If we don't get them a proper education, they're not going to find a job in the next 5 years or 6 years. So we got to go back to our kids, have the education, make sure that if we bring any industries, that they can find the jobs here in Atlantic City. You guys know that there is a big wind energy company that came in town from Europe. They declared Atlantic City as their New Jersey headquarters. Matter of fact, actually U.S. headquarters. And we have an e-gaming industry that's located in Atlantic City Convention Center currently. Thank you very much.
Mr. Rizwan?
NAACP, thank you very much, and all the people that came out today to participate. I would like to see this room actually full. I thought this room should be full because people need to be connected, need to find out who's your councilman. My name is Rizwan Malik. I was an ex-councilman for 5th Ward, 2012 to 2015. I bring some boards with me that I want to show you what I have done and how was as a councilman. I was good. I made a resolution, provided Atlantic City brand new streets. We didn't have money, yes, but you have to come and think out of the box. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions. I made that tough decision. I made the utilities companies responsible. If they touch our streets, they're going to pay from corner to corner. And all my colleagues voted on this, and we got brand new streets in Venus Park and Chelsea Heights. Yes, we didn't have money sometime, and you know why we don't have money, because casinos were suing us. So in 2011, I brought this up that casinos going to sue us, we're going to lose a lot of money. We have to borrow $500 million to pay them. And who's paying for this? we are, as a taxpayer, our tax went up. We are paying for this. I do not agree with this. So I did not vote for this budget that raising our taxes. We came out, we did a tax rally. I started this tax rally. We did several tax rallies. I have the proofs here. I was in the newspaper is here. We went out there to ask not to raise our taxes. Why do we have to pay for this? If casinos getting their money back. And the residents has to pay for this. I don't agree with this, so I am there for you to fight. I want you to support me. I worked in Sandy. I was out there. I worked for nonprofit organizations. I went out. I was part of the petitioner. When your water was trying to take our water away from you, I was out there fighting for you. I was fighting for your higher taxes. And I went there rallying to bring the university here. I was on the boardwalk rallying with them, show them how to rally, so they could bring Stockton University in Atlantic City, and that will help Atlantic City. Not too fast, but slowly, it is improving because a lot of people moving their businesses in Atlantic City, and we have to bring businesses in. I was part of every month, there's a meeting, I bring all the business owners in council to have meetings and ask them what their problem is so we could help them solve their problem and have more businesses and more employment. These are the things that we need to do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rizwan. I'm going to ask now, I'm going to direct this first question to Mrs. Days Chapman, and then you'll have 60 seconds to respond, and then each of the other candidates can choose to take 30 seconds to respond to the question or to respond to your answer, and we'll do that for all three candidates. So in the past few years, the Atlantic City School District was forced to let go of a substantial number of employees for financial reasons. As a councilwoman, will there be a relationship between the city council and the educational leaders to prevent this from happening again?
Well, speaking of a relationship between city council and the school board, that is just essential as a whole. What happens with our children now will have a major impact on what happens in our community later. So the relationship is a must, and if I am elected city councilwoman, I will be the liaison between city council and the school board as a vice president of the school board. That's something that I talk about on a regular basis, and it's something that I will ensure takes place in the future.
Very good answer, but I wanted to know, you are already in the school, but what did you do about it? Yes, people have been getting fired. We have problems in school board. We have where they're demoting one of the principals right now, so they can put somebody else there as a favoritism. These kind of things are going in the school, but I think this should be addressed. That's the only thing I want to say. But if these are things that are already going on in the school board, and you think you could do better in the council, you should do better right now, as this is happening.
Thanks for the question. I'm actually a proud member of 331 Teamster, and my brothers and sisters actually work in the public works department in Atlantic City. My brothers and sisters don't have the contract, I believe, last 5 years, and the state's still playing game with their raising. And the public works are the hardest working people in the city. And I know there was a resolution to give them a bonuses around Christmas. I don't know if that ever happened or not, but if I'm the council, I will try my best to protect all the employees because they work really hard for our town and they should deserve better pay. Thank you.
Mr. Chattery, there's a question here for you. Says you talk a lot about money. Do you have any proof that those numbers are true, the numbers that you offer are true? And if so, how do you plan to decrease the debt?
Thanks for the question. I did work with mortgage banking back in 2004 to 2008, so I'm a number guy. I really love the numbers. Those are the numbers that actually came out of press, Atlantic City Press. I'm not 100% want to say that those are the numbers, but those are like actually the numbers that came in the paper as far as I remember. But to clear about the debt, is actually we got to actually look at our budget, how we can cut. And when Jim Johnson came out with the plan last month regarding the road plan, he's not really explaining how we're going to get out of this debt. So it's really the state has to come up with a plan. We can work together, see if we can actually pay this debt instead of adding new numbers to the budget. Thank you.
You each can respond in 30 seconds. The question was about the debt and how do you intend on decreasing that debt?
Well, as everybody knows, state is the one in control of finance right now. So they are the one making all the shots, and they are the one deciding how it's gonna go. But it's not easy. It's very difficult. We have the chance in 2011. Shouldn't borrow all that money. This is why I voted against it. We could have just literally stole the banks and casinos. We don't have it. We borrowed the money, gave it to them, and put ourselves in this position. When I said we shouldn't have done this. But now what we're gonna do? We have to wait for the state. City don't have money. This is the truth. City don't have money to pay them back. If we say we're gonna pay back, your tax is gonna go up again. So let the state do something about it.
And he's right, the state is in control, but at the present time, the city doesn't get any of our luxury property or parking taxes. And as city councilwoman, that is something that I would fight for the state to release, because that will help us in itself.
Ms. Malik, how do we diversify the Atlantic City Police Department and Atlantic City Fire Department further? Currently, the leadership of both of those departments don't reflect the diversity of our city. Is there a way, do you have a plan, vision for this city to have more minorities in leadership and management of fire and police?
Well, as a city council, when I became a councilman, that was the first thing I addressed. And I went to the mayor and I asked the mayor that we need to have diverse police officers here. So actually there is now, as I speak, there is Bengali, Spanish. We have all different minorities groups getting into the police department, and the applications are open for everybody. There is nothing saying you can't apply or you the only person could apply. So as they qualify, they are getting in, and it's on the move right now. So this is the best thing is already happening. So we're just gonna keep asking for more. So that's the only way I could ask. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I love actually the junior police academy training in every schools. I like to actually expand that program so our new generation have an idea about how the police officer look like. Also, we like to have a minority day in the schools where our African American police officer or Hispanic police officer that been actually promoted recently from sergeant to lieutenant. So they also can have a vision that one day they can be a lieutenant or they can be a police chief officer. Actually, matter of fact, our police chief is African American. So we need to motivate our kids to come to as a police officer or a fireman that they can actually be a police officer or fireman. Thank you.
At the present time, I am a member of the Citizens Advisory Board, in which we work one-on-one with the police department and Chief White. And I can honestly say that they're doing a great job in trying to diversify the police department. Just recently, I had the honor and privilege of writing a recommendation letter for a young lady within the 4th Ward, and she just became a police officer within the last couple of weeks. So it is something that we are pushing towards, something we are working on, and something that we will continue to fight for here in our city. Thank you.
Mrs. Dave Chapman, your question, and I think this will give you opportunity to respond to one of the questions that were raised by one of your colleagues, what have you done for the school budget as a school board member? Answer that. And there's also a question here, if you can just tie it in as a yes or no question, just making it clear that you don't intend on serving on the school board and the city council.
To make it very clear, I could not serve on the city council and the school board. In regards to our budget, just to make it clear, it was said, that layoffs and things have occurred and you're on the school board now. We have not had any reductions in force and any major cuts on the school board since I have been on the school board. So that is just for clarification. Our budget is phenomenal right now. We have not had any major deficits at all. And if you take the opportunity to review it, you will be very satisfied with it. And the school board as a whole has worked together to ensure that that has taken place for our city and for our school districts. Thank you.
Mr. Chattery, we're you again. You mentioned having the STEM industry in Atlantic City for our kids. What are your plans to prepare children in school in preparation for the STEM industry?
Thank you. Actually, it's called STEAM Education. Phil Murphy just declared a program last year where he will give out more money to the school if they open up engineering programs or like a science program in the high school. So I actually have talked to a couple of people that actually sits on the school board, not with Ms. Dela, but I did have a couple of friends in the school, but I did spoke to them and they are actually on it. So we need to actually come up with the plan so we can have more curriculums, just not in the high school, starting from the middle school, so they can have the idea of STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. Our schools are actually failing. They are actually somewhere in 5 out of 10. Most of the school average, some of them are 3. So we got to actually do better on science, technology, and engineering, because that's where all the jobs are going to be in the future. And I just want to add, I missed the answer, like that wind energy that are coming here, or like all the technologies coming here, we actually educate our kids from here, because we don't want to see the jobs coming. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I totally agree that we need to start early in high school. My son when he was in high school, he was very interested in computer. So I asked him if you guys have a club, computer club. He said no. I said, well, you need to go talk to your counselor. They could have a computer club there, and you could participate with all the other students and try to help them, teach them, show them why computer is important. Now he is a software engineer. He just graduated from Stockton College, and he got hired as a software engineer. But he started that club, and he became the president of the club. 200 students joined him in that club. So I want the school to start early. And now he's talking to me, he said, Dad, our high school didn't teach us as much that they should, because I've been talking to other people from other schools. They say they learn all those courses in high school, where we don't teach that in high school. So there's a lot of small courses we could teach our kids in high school.
Thank you so much. The question was about bringing STEM education into our schools, middle school, high school, your plan for preparing children for the STEM industry.
And this is when knowledge and awareness is important, because Atlantic City School District has had an initiative to infuse STEAM education within all of our schools. My children, which are right there, 7 and 9 years old, stay after school for this after school program right now. We're working on robotics, coding. So we have infused STEAM education, and it is flourishing. Thank you.
Mr. Malik, we'll have this question. New businesses, and this question I asked your Republican counterpart, new businesses are opening in Atlantic City, and many people who do not live in the city are taking advantage of these opportunities. There are very few minority residents who have been able to benefit from this new resurgence. As a council person for the city of Atlantic City, what is your plan to ensure that residents are able to take advantage of these economic opportunities as well?
Well, as a city council, and I could show you, there's a paper right there that says, I did monthly meetings, business meetings, called business forums, where I asked everybody, all the residents, all the businesses, come to this meeting. We will talk about business. Give me what you want to do. You have ideas, we'll help you. I show you how to go register your business. I will show you all the paperwork that need to be done. And any issues you have in continuing, going to open up your store, all the red tapes, I will help you to cut those red tapes down and you could open up quick. Yes, we need to push a little bit more for our residents. Programs like Gilliam already introduced, we need more programs like that. We need to push programs like that. As a councilman, I will push those programs. As I did before, on a monthly basis, I had meetings in the city council, and I had meetings with the boardwalk, with all the business owners, and I asked them every monthly basis, what is your issues, what is your problems, how can the city help you flourish more better? Thank you.
Ms. Dave Chapman, would you like to respond?
Well, I'm a firm believer of taking care of home first. And if I'm elected city councilwoman, I will ensure that jobs are offered to our community first. We need to make sure that our children are well taken care of. We need to make sure that our mothers, our fathers, our family members are taken care of. Those within our community should always be offered the jobs first. This is our community. And we have been servicing the outside for a long period of time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it first starts with taking care of our own.
Atlantic City is actually the second poorest town in the state of New Jersey, right behind Camden. 37% of our residents are living under poverty right now. So yes it is, by NJ.com. Actually, I'm sorry. So we actually need to match our training program to the job pool we have currently in the town. It's either our residents not getting the right training or they're not having the right jobs where they can work. So the training that we have from the Labor Department, Atlantic City mayor job training program, that needs to be matched with the unemployment rate we have, the people that are unemployment or the skill they have to the jobs we have in the town now. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to our last round of questions, and this time you won't have an opportunity to respond to the other person's questions. So we'll have, each person will get their own question and have 60 seconds to respond to it, and then after the three of you have answered your respective questions, then we'll go to our final, we'll go to our closing comments. Mrs. Days Chapman, Atlantic City is in need of more family-centered activities. As a councilwoman, what is your plan to bring more family-centered activities to the city? 60 seconds.
I'm glad that I was asked this question, because as a mother, that is something that I have been complaining about for a long period of time. With so many families within our city, there is no reason why we should have to leave it to enjoy other amenities. We need more family-friendly opportunities, amenities right here in our city, and I will push for that as your city councilwoman. We don't have enough family-friendly restaurants here, and so that is something that I will address, not just for your family, for my own family, for all of our families. Thank you.
Mr. Chattery, what are you going to do about the slumlords in our city?
Thanks for the question. Actually, we need to actually strengthen our code enforcement laws again, or enforce it at least, especially in my area, that town. The houses are actually falling down. The good thing is there is a thing coming with the Wells Fargo Foundation, with $25 million grant from Wells Fargo Foundation, and I've been working with Ocean Inc. They just bought the property in Texas Avenue, Texas and Fairmont, so they're going to be actually in the neighborhood. I've been working closely with them last few months. So we're going to see a lot of changes in at least in the dock town, which is the worst part of the town right now. Thank you.
Mr. Malik, your question: what is your position or opinion on gender equality? What will you do to create new opportunities for women and girls?
Well, I think it's. I don't see any differences already. It's open to everybody. Applications are open to everybody, so everybody should apply for it. I encourage everybody, the women, the men, everybody should apply for their positions and go for it, and they qualify, they get it. Other than that, I can't discriminate, say, oh, I should do this or I should do that. So I just encourage equal opportunity for everyone.
All right, we're scheduled to end at 8. We'll go a little over 8 for our closing comments, about another 6 minutes, and then we should be done. Ms. Malik will allow you to give your opening comment, your closing comments first, and then Mr. Chattery, and then we'll have the last word by Mrs. Days Chapman.
Thank you very much. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I just want to ask everybody to support me as a city council. I have a record. You could look on every board I have 5 boards. Every issue we discussed, I brought it with me today on these boards. If anybody wants to see any of those things, I have it. And I will ask you to support me. I am a perfect example who has done it, who have experience. And I am all for the people, and I want you to support me in the June 4th election. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you first because of your generous and everything. I'd like to finish tonight with a person that we all admire, at least I admire, and a lot of people being inspired by him, by President Obama. Obama said change happened when ordinary people got involved. So I think the change is on the way for Atlantic City. We need to bring a change to the Atlantic City with just not with our crimes or the potholes or the budget issue we have. We need change from top to bottom. Start with our kids. We got to focus on our kids. That's a big thing. We need a leader that can no longer think just about the uptown or just a little part of the Chelsea Heights or the Docktown. We need a leader that actually thinks Atlantic City as a whole, because when something happened, a part of the town, it's not just happened there, it's just happened for whole Atlantic City. We got to bring everybody together as a leader so we can fight the city, fight the state, and show them the exit on Atlantic City Expressway, 1C, that goes to 295 North, that we can lead ourselves and we can actually have a fresh book that has no debt. And June 4th, vote B7. Thank you very much. Good night.
We need equity across the board, and that starts with having a woman in a city council seat. So if you have a vote, I'll take it on June 4th. Vote D7, Days for Days Chapman, because I am the very best candidate for the 4th Ward. Thank you.
Let's thank all 3 of our Democratic candidates for the 4th Ward. Let's thank the NAACP for convening us tonight, and we'll have the final words from our Political Action Chair, Charles Cook.
Everybody, thank you. Give yourself a hand. This is our studio audience. It will go throughout the Atlantic City. Some of the candidates had to leave, Shabazz and all. They have a forum in the 5th Ward. So I just wanted to thank you for coming. Thank the candidates also. And thank you. That's it. All right. So anyway, I'll see you in October when we'll have the Republican and the Democratic persons running for the general election in November. Thank you once again. And don't forget to vote June 4th. Please. We're off the air.